Have you ever seen a home that refuses to talk to its surroundings? Because that's exactly what this house does. From the outside, it's quiet and guarded. Solid brick at the base, timber screens above, and no windows visible from the street at all. So you'd walk right past it and never guess there's a pool at its center, courtyards pulling light deep inside, or views of the harbor carefully framed behind layers of mature trees. And all that is intentional, because this house doesn't try to be open in the usual way. It doesn't spill itself outward or put everything on display. Instead, it turns inward, using courtyards, screens, and architectural compression to create calm, light-filled spaces that feel completely protected from the outside world. And by the end of this video, you'll see how this house answers a question every architect grapples with. How do you design a home that feels expansive and inspiring while still maintaining your privacy? So you pull up to the house and it sits right on the street, bold, minimal, and unapologetic. And this black Vespa parked in the driveway near the garage just looks like it totally belongs here. And the house itself is built in layers, a solid pale brick base at ground level, a horizontal concrete band wrapping the middle, and above that, a timber screened upper floor that curves gently at one corner. The whole composition is horizontal and calm, but there's something confident about how it holds the street edge. The brick is this warm cream color with long horizontal joints that emphasize the width of the facade, and it wraps the ground floor in this tactile, earthy material that anchors the entire home. And above it, the concrete band is poured in place with those signature circular tie holes visible across the entire surface. And so it's raw and honest and not trying to hide how it was made. And then the timber screen starts, and the vertical slats run across the entire upper level, creating this veil over the first floor. And then behind the screen, you can see glimpses of glass with the windows and openings recessed behind the timber. But the slats are arranged closely together, so from the street you can't really see in, but light still filters through and there's this sense of life happening inside. And at dusk, you can imagine the house glowing from within and the timber feeling like a bit of a lantern. Now, the roofline follows the curve of the corner, wrapping around with that same timber screen, but it's not a sharp corner. It's softened and rounded, almost like the house is responding to the movement of cars turning the street. And the detailing is clean and precise. Every joint, every transition between materials, it's all been heavily considered. The entry is set back from the street, carved into the brick base. You walk through this wooden gate, which has the same vertical slat detailing as the upper level, and you enter into a double height entry courtyard. The courtyard itself is framed by these pale brick walls on either side, with this elegant tree and some native grasses here on the left, and then the ground on the right side is polished concrete in this nice, smooth gray. Now, above you, the concrete soffit of the upper floor cantilevers over the entry, which creates this compressed threshold before you step into the home. And so the whole entry sequence is about compression and release. You start on the busy street, step through that low gate, move into the narrow courtyard with its very high walls, and then the door opens into the house beyond. But what I really love here is how nicely the materials work together. The pale brick is warm and neutral, the concrete is cool and structural, and the timber is textured and alive and softens everything up without losing that sense of precision. And because the site is long and narrow, the house responds by turning inward. It's not trying to show off views or connect to the street, it's creating its own world within the property line. Now, I should mention, this is an Australian modernist home with its clean lines, indoor-outdoor flow, and strong focus on light and privacy, but as I mentioned before, when you look closely at the concrete, you'll notice all the form tie holes are still left visible. And that's a clear influence from the school of brutalism, where materials are kept bare, finishes aren't over-polished, and the building openly shows how it was constructed instead of hiding that. And so the raw concrete brings this sense of weight and honesty, while the timber screens and curves soften it so the home still feels warm and livable. Now, when you step through the front door, the house opens up completely, and the living room is this long, open space with timber floors running wall to wall and a tongue and groove timber ceiling overhead. The boards are wide and the grain is visible, so there's texture and warmth without any pattern or fuss. And the whole palette is neutral, soft grays, warm timbers, and cream stone, so everything feels calm and grown up. But it's the far wall in here that's the showpiece, because it's dominated by a built-in unit that runs floor to ceiling with sliding oak veneer doors in the center and open shelving on either side. The shelves are backed wrapped in this pale gray marble with darker veins running through it, and the shelves themselves are black steel. And as you can see, they're very thoughtfully styled with ceramics, books, glassware, and a few other sculptural objects. So here's a quick design tip for you. When you're styling your built-in shelving like this, don't cram every shelf. Instead, let some areas stay open, because that negative space gives your eye a place to rest, makes the entire shelving unit feel more intentional, and keeps the wall from looking heavy or cluttered. Now, the seating in here is low and luxurious. There's this modular gray sofa, which is upholstered in this nubby textured fabric, and it's arranged around this really elegant coffee table. And on the other side of the table, they've got 2 lounge chairs, also in gray, with rounded arms and that same soft, inviting upholstery. And all of that is sitting on this very large jute rug that just adds another layer of texture to the floor. But the thing that makes this room truly special is all the natural light pouring in here, because one entire side of the living room is floor-to-ceiling glass looking out to a terrace and to the tree canopy beyond. And through that glass, you can see these beautiful, mature eucalyptus trees, and beyond that, you get a little glimpse of the harbor through all the foliage. They've also got these beautiful sheer white curtains here, which filter the light when they're drawn, but still allow you to see the trees. And so what that means is the room has this dappled light moving across the surfaces all day long. And you can see just from these photos that the trees cast these unpredictable shadows on the walls and floor, which just gives the room another layer of depth. And this feeling isn't accidental at all, because there's a very deliberate way this house uses inward-facing views, filtered light, and visual layers to make the space feel so calm and balanced like this. And it's exactly the kind of thing we dig much deeper into inside my private community, because once you understand this, you start recognizing why certain homes feel so much better to spend time in. If you want to go deeper and understand the psychology behind what's going on here, there's a link in the description. Now, as we move deeper into this large open plan area, the dining room is sitting between the living room and the kitchen. And they've got this rounded rectangular pale blonde oak table with these chunky cylindrical legs, and it's surrounded by some simple wooden chairs with these nicely curved backs. And then the kitchen is slightly recessed into the back wall, which just keeps it from dominating the space. This massive island looks really good in oak veneer with this pale stone waterfall benchtop. And I appreciate that they've built in this cutout here on the left side so they can fit these 2 stools, which is the perfect spot for a quick breakfast or having coffee in the morning. The backsplash behind the cooktop is made of these large format stone tiles in this cloudy sort of texture that is distinct from what you'd traditionally see with a veined marble. And it gives the surface these soft variations in tone that are almost like looking at a foggy sky. Now, the cooktop is built right into the main countertop against the back wall, while the island has the sink with a simple brushed bronze tap. And then to the right side, they've got a couple of these tall pantry units running floor to ceiling, which offer a ton of storage for food, dishware, and anything else they need in the kitchen. But what I really appreciate is how both the dining room and the kitchen connect so seamlessly to the terrace, because these glass doors slide completely open and the timber floor transitions perfectly to the outdoor deck. You can just imagine these incredibly long linen curtains dancing as a breeze comes through this space. And even when you're dining indoors at the dining table, you can still see straight through to the trees and to the harbor beyond. But there's plenty going on the terrace as well. On the one side, they've got this round marble dining table surrounded by a few cane-back chairs, and then on the other side, a more informal seating area with a few lounge chairs surrounding this small table. And so when you put this entire space together, from the living room to the dining room to the kitchen to these 2 unique seating areas on the terrace, I'm certain that this is where the family spends the majority of their time. But not only is this an ideal space for the family themselves, it's also a great place for entertaining. They have tons of space to eat, to have drinks, and to just congregate throughout this very large volume of space. I just love how they've executed things in here. Now, there's also another living space tucked off the main axis of this home, and this one's a little more intimate, and the seating is arranged around a small collection of low furniture. They've got 2 curvy modern chairs in this nice cream color sitting on metal bases, and in front of them are 2 black marble side tables. There's this woven rattan ottoman, a curved sofa across from the chairs, and another well-chosen rug that's defining this conversation zone. And on the other side of the seating area, they've got the same built-in unit that we saw in the main living room with the oak veneer cabinetry and the marble-backed shelving that's also styled with some ceramics and books. And so the fact that they've chosen to use the same joinery throughout the entire home really ties these different spaces together. Now, the thing is, this room also has a view of the internal courtyard. And so this floor-to-ceiling glass actually looks out to the pool, which I'll talk more about in a minute, but that's kind of what makes this space so special, because it's borrowing light and views from multiple different directions. One side looks onto the pool courtyard, but the other side has views through to the main living area and onto the terrace beyond. But now let's head upstairs to the master bedroom, where the room is soft and calm, wrapped in creams and beiges with a few splashes of texture around the room. The bed itself is sitting on this low gray platform, and it's dressed in layers of linen and wool throws in natural tones. The pillows are gray, cream, and butter yellow, and so they're all slightly mismatched but still harmonious with the color palette of the room. The floor is a pale timber, similar to what we saw downstairs, and I appreciate that they've included this thick cream shaggy rug to anchor the bed. Now, sitting here is the little Petra lounge chair by Viggo Bosen, which is a mid-century design known for its low profile, soft curves, and kind of cocoon-like feel. It's a design from the 1930s, but placing it in the bedroom here makes sense because it adds a quiet moment for reading or unwinding, and its rounded form softens the clean lines and architectural surfaces that you see in this room. And then behind the chair, they've got this beautiful floor-to-ceiling glass that opens onto the private bedroom terrace. Through the glass, you can actually see the city of Sydney, so the skyline, the tower, and a little bit of the harbor, but it's all filtered through the tree canopy. So the view is really nice, but it's not overwhelming because the trees are softening it. And just like we saw downstairs, they've got the same floor-to-ceiling linen curtains that act to filter and soften the light without blocking the view completely. And I really love that they've included this really simple study nook here in the bedroom. It's just a floating wooden desk, this black office chair, and a few small objects on the table, like this really nice cream lamp here in the corner. And above the desk, they've got this really large skylight that's allowing light to pour into this room, and the shadows from the skylight create these really nice geometric patterns on the walls, and those are going to move throughout the day as the sun shifts across the sky. Now, this is the ensuite bathroom, and it's all about the view. They've got this gorgeous freestanding oval tub right in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows that's looking straight out to the Sydney harbor. And through the glass, you can see the harbor bridge, the water, a ton of surrounding rooftops, and a cacophony of trees in this really iconic panorama. And so this is the kind of view that people pay a lot of money for, but they get it here while they're soaking in the bath. Now, the tub itself is a bit of a piece of art, and it's sitting straight on the pale stone floor that matches perfectly with the rest of the house. And they've done such a good job here of injecting just the smallest amount of color, like this rust-colored towel that's draped over one side of the tub, or this gray-green ceramic side table that's sitting next to it. Because when you contrast this little bit of color with the rest of the bathroom, which is done in these soft neutrals, it feels like a spa. It's not overdone. The vanity's running along this wall here, and above it, they've got this frameless full-width mirror that reflects both the window and the view and doubles the sense of light and space in here. And again, just like we've seen all throughout this home, they've got the floor-to-ceiling curtains that you can open or close depending on if you want privacy or more light coming into the room. Now, the shower is tucked into this curved alcove. This is where things get a little interesting because the wall is tiled in these thin cream vertical tiles that are stacked in a gentle curve and wrap around the shower space. And the tiles themselves have this really beautiful texture, almost like a woven basket, and this curve just softens the entire space. And then above the shower, just like we saw above the desk in the bedroom, there's a round skylight that's bringing natural light straight down into the shower itself. Even though the shower is a bit recessed, it's still flooded with daylight. Because a few minutes ago, I said that I thought the living room, dining room, kitchen area with that beautiful terrace would have been the heart of this home. But now I'm not so sure, because this pool courtyard, which you can see from 3 different levels of the home, is really making a strong case. It's this rectangular void carved into the center of the home, but it's open to the sky, and so the home surrounds the pool in this really unique way. And as you can see, the water is turquoise blue, not just a regular blue, but that saturated jewel tone of blue that catches the light and holds on to it. And that's because the tiles used in this pool are actually small mosaics, so they give the water this intense color that contrasts so nicely with all the pale materials around it. Now, the walls here are poured concrete, which gives it that raw, honest feel, and it also means that it's going to age naturally over time. And they've already got plants creeping out of the planters here down toward the pool to give it more of that lush jungle feel. But really, this is just such a special place for the family to spend time, where they can all congregate around the pool, and if they need to, zip off into other areas of the home, but still feel connected to the pool because it's right at the center of this building. So I would say what they've really got in this home are two separate centers. This pool courtyard, which will be especially heavily used in the summer months when it's hot and you want to be in and around the pool, and then the living room, dining room, kitchen area, which will be more heavily used in the winter months and in the evening. But it's also worth pointing out that the courtyard here acts as a light well, pulling natural light deep into the home, but it's also a focal point. It's a beautiful contemplative space that you'll always be aware of when you're in this home. The turquoise water reflects light up onto the concrete ceilings, creating these rippling patterns that move and shift throughout the day, and frankly, it's just mesmerizing. And so when you stand in the middle of this house, looking up through the courtyard, watching light bounce off the water and timber and concrete, you start to understand what the home is really all about. Because this isn't a house trying to announce itself to its neighbors or compete for attention. It's actually doing the opposite. It turns its back on noise, traffic, and exposure, and instead builds a rich inner world, one shaped by filtered light, layered thresholds, and carefully controlled views. And the architecture isn't loud, but it is incredibly confident, and every wall, screen, and courtyard is there for a defined reason. And so this home really shows that luxury doesn't have to mean openness or spectacle. It can mean privacy, it can mean restraint, and it can mean choosing how you engage with the world around you rather than letting the world dictate your experience of your home. Because this is a house that proves you don't need to face outward to feel expansive. Sometimes the most powerful architecture is the kind that looks inward and makes the everyday feel calm, intentional, and like home. The thing is, if you don't understand the principles behind inward-facing architecture, then you'll never truly understand why this home works so well. So watch this video next, where I look at another home that's perfect for introverts, but still has a lot of personality. I'll see you there.